Hi, friends. I'm continuing my series of lectures on the topic of consulting and how to sell high ticket services starting at $10,000. Today, I want to discuss an interesting topic with you, the client's true request. Over the 10 years that I've been involved in training, info business, and consulting, as well as working in various companies as a marketing director with different owners, in various niches, here's what I've realized. And this is the key point I want to get across to you today. That what a client tells you with their words, so to speak, with their voice, most often, not always, but most often, doesn't match what they actually need. I'll explain why this happens, how to work with it, and how it relates to the topic of consulting and high ticket sales. Now, if we look at all the services on the market in terms of levels, so to speak, levels of requests, and if we gather all clients and divide them by their levels of awareness, well, we get a kind of pyramid. And at the lower levels of the pyramid, when talking about clients and services, we have what's called craftsmanship, where the client knows exactly what they want. For example, well, let's take a simple example like a barber shop, right? So they want a haircut, they understand what their budget is for it, or maybe a haircut, a pedicure, for cleaning an apartment, something straightforward, basically. Yeah. And essentially, at these levels, there's a clear, understandable offer. The client has an idea of what it should cost because the market dictates the price, the cost, right? And the competition is based on the offer and the price. But if we're talking specifically about high ticket sales and the consulting niche, then here, it's not the functional attributes that come into play, the things you can touch or feel. Instead, emotional and social attributes and hidden motives come into play. And based on my experience, if you stop focusing on the functional attributes, the number of calls, the duration of those calls, I don't know, the number of recorded lessons, the lesson topics, yeah, things like that. Well, so by moving away from that, you stop competing with thousands, tens of thousands of other online school owners, consultants, and experts because you move from describing the process and describing the functionality into a much more interesting structure, so to speak, other motives. What kind of motives are we talking about? Now, what I'm about to tell you is something a client would hardly ever say or admit to, but this is based on my experience. Most clients don't actually need your expertise, your credentials, or your experience. All of that is important, of course, but it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is how the client feels when they're with you. If we're talking about high tickets, consulting, that's exactly what it's about. So we move from a craftsmanship mindset to a level of emotions, personal branding, mission, creativity, co-creation, and partnership. Something along those lines, yeah. Higher level concepts, so to speak, yeah. In these higher level concepts, processes aren't really discussed. I mean, sure, you can agree on a call schedule or something like that, but that's not what they're paying for. It's important to just understand the client's hidden motivation. What could that hidden motivation be? To put it very simply and superficially, it's be there for me. That could be the request. Support me, believe in me, give me permission. Like, give me permission to start a business, close a business, divorce my spouse. Or the opposite, get back together with someone, give me permission to charge more. Give me permission to be confident or give me permission to become a coach. Yeah, those are the actual requests. So people don't need to be told how to sell or how to set up ads. Yeah, those are the craftsmanship requests, so to speak, the low level ones. Those are the requests there. But being able to work with these requests, identify them, and present them correctly, well, that's a skill. This skill isn't developed overnight. And I didn't develop this skill right away either, nor the general understanding that this is exactly what people need. So, if you're interested in figuring this out, reaching tickets like 300,000, 500,000, a million and up, and not necessarily in marketing, it could be psychology, coaching, mentoring, teaching design, programming, it doesn't matter at all. I mean, coaching is just a method of working with people. Mentoring is also a method of working with people, with clients. So it doesn't depend on the niche. So it doesn't necessarily have to be psychology, but if you're going for a high ticket, you need to understand, as I said in previous parts of these lectures, psychology, client behavior, communication, NLP skills, and so on. So to summarize, right, what is the main point of this video? It's that the hidden motive is the most important thing when working with high tickets, meaning understanding what actually drives the client, what they really need, their value system, their frame of reference, their vision, their beliefs. That's the most important thing, right? Their hidden motive. In the hidden motive, again, from my experience, it's not about I want to earn more money. It's not about, build me a system for like the sales department or marketing department. It's not about like teach me how to implement AI or something like that, right? Or update my packaging, branding, and so on. It's about the owner's internal requests, which they might not even know themselves or haven't formulated, but which you must learn to see. For example, I had a client who, after my presentation, his wife came up to me, and told him that he should talk to me. I was talking about marketing then, and he sits down to talk with me. And so everything he's telling me, based on everything he's saying, I realize that he doesn't need money. And so I kind of ask him the question, what do you actually want? Let's discuss that. And after several iterations of such questions and answers, I come to the conclusion that he actually wants not to develop his current business, but to open a new direction, a premium direction. Because the most interesting part, he's ashamed to sell in a cheap product because all his friends are millionaires, billionaires, and he's ashamed to talk about his clothing brand because they wear, and he himself wears, another brand of clothing he earns on cheap stuff on the mass market, but inside he's always wanted to create something premium, right? And that's his true request, meaning to give him permission to create a new premium direction. But to be able to dig up this request, to be able to formulate it, to present it to the client so that it doesn't cause defensiveness, denial, and so on, right? That's a skill that an expert, coach, or mentor must possess, right? And to be there for the client. There are other examples where you actually need to turn off your expertise. You just need to be there for the client. Not to argue with them, not to teach them, but just to let them do what they're doing while supporting them in this process and correcting them a little bit here and there. Because if you take the leading role, start teaching them something, telling them how it should be, it'll be competition and they won't like it. That's just a certain type of client. You just need to be there. He knows what he's doing. He just lacks support and, let's say, a brotherly shoulder, right? Again, this is also about understanding what role to communicate in, what position to communicate with the client in, right? So if you want to dive deeper into all of this to figure it out, you can write to me in direct messages. I'll agree with you on the format that's convenient for you so that you can learn from my experience, right, in this matter. So that's how today's lecture turned out. I hope you found it useful. Well, I try to record these mini lectures, so you don't get too overwhelmed. So you have time to listen and I can deliver it all in bite-sized pieces. So let me know in the comments how much you liked it and if you use an understanding of a client's hidden motives in your work. And let me know what other topics you'd like me to cover in my next video.